The Sly Fox was hiding. His fur was matted, his breath was short. He peeked from behind a large oak tree, his eyes wide with fear. In the distance, a figure was approaching his burrow. It was the wise badger, and he was carrying a very large, very official-looking ledger book. The fox gulped. It was collection day. At that very same moment, on the other side of the forest, Pip the Gopher was also finishing a transaction. He was happily pushing his gleaming new wheelbarrow, now filled to the brim with seeds from a profitable day at the market. Two residents of the forest. Both had taken on a debt of exactly 50 seeds. So why was one now a fugitive, hiding in the shadows, while the other was wealthier and more productive than ever before? To understand, we must rewind 1 month to the moment two very different problems led to one very similar decision. Pip's business was booming. His berry patch was producing baskets of fruit. His beehives were overflowing with honey. He had a problem, but it was a good problem. He was producing more than he could carry. Every morning he would look at his harvest and his shoulders would slump. He could only carry one small basket to the market at a time. The rest of his valuable produce was left behind, at risk of spoiling. He was losing potential profit every single day. Meanwhile, the Sly Fox had a very different kind of problem. A new resident had arrived in the forest, a magnificent peacock who sold the most beautiful, shimmering hats made from his own feathers. The peacock was the center of attention. Everyone admired him, and the fox, who used to be the slickest character around, felt invisible, ignored. He believed a fancy hat would restore his status. He didn't need a hat. He wanted the respect he thought it would bring. Both Pip and the fox knew what they had to do. They needed capital. They needed a loan. One by one, they made the journey to the office of the wise badger who served as the forest bank. Pip arrived first, carrying a piece of bark with careful calculations scratched into it. "I need to borrow 50 seeds," Pip said confidently. "I want to buy a wheelbarrow from Barnaby the Beaver." The badger looked at him over his glasses. "A wheelbarrow is an expense, Pip. How will you pay me back?" Pip presented his calculations. "Right now, I can only carry one basket to the market, earning 10 seeds a day. With this wheelbarrow, I can carry 10 baskets. I will earn 100 seeds a day. After paying my expenses, my profit will be an extra 20 seeds every single day. I will pay you back your 50 seeds in less than a week. After that, the wheelbarrow will be a machine that prints seeds for me for free." The badger smiled. "That is a plan. That is a good debt." A little later, the Sly Fox slinked into the office. "Wise badger," he said with a charming smile, "I also require a loan of 50 seeds." The badger raised an eyebrow. "For what purpose?" The fox puffed out his chest. "For a magnificent hat. It is an investment in my image. When everyone sees me in this hat, the respect, the opportunities, they will be endless." The badger looked at the fox. "And what is your specific, calculated plan to turn that respect into the seeds you need to pay me back?" The fox's smile faltered. "Well, I'll figure it out. A fox of my stature always finds a way." The badger sighed. He knew this was a bad idea, but he also knew that some lessons can only be learned the hard way. He approved both loans. Pip immediately went to Barnaby the Beaver and purchased a sturdy, well-made wheelbarrow. The very next morning was a revelation.
He loaded all of his berries, all of his honey, and all of his acorns. His back didn't hurt. Nothing was left behind. He made it to the market and sold everything before lunchtime. His seed pouch was heavier than it had ever been. He repeated this every day. At the end of the week, he marched happily back to the badger's office. He placed 50 seeds on the desk to repay the loan, and then he placed 5 extra seeds on top. "For your trust," Pip said. The badger nodded, pleased. Pip had used the debt as a tool. He had turned it into a productive asset. The fox's week was different. He immediately bought the most expensive hat from the peacock. He spent the first day parading it around the forest, and indeed everyone was impressed. "What a fine hat," they all said. The fox felt important. The second day, it rained. A small but crucial feather was damaged. The hat looked slightly less impressive. By the fourth day, the novelty had worn off. No one commented on his hat anymore. It was just a hat. The fox hadn't earned a single extra seed. The hat hadn't created any opportunities. It had only created a debt. He had spent his loan on a pretty object that was now losing its value every single day. Which brings us back to the beginning, to the fear, to the day of reckoning. The wise badger knocked on the fox's burrow. "50 seeds, please." The fox, trembling inside, had nothing. He had wasted his opportunity. He had turned a tool into a trap. Later that day, Pip saw the wise badger walking away from the fox's burrow, looking disappointed. Pip approached him, pushing his now fully paid-for wheelbarrow. "Wise badger," Pip asked, "we both took the same loan. Why did my story end so well and his, well, so badly?" The badger stopped and looked at Pip's wheelbarrow and then back towards the fox's burrow. "Because, Pip," he said, "you understood the difference between a tool and a toy. You borrowed seeds to buy a tool that helps you create more seeds. The wheelbarrow puts seeds into your pouch. That is good debt." The fox continued, borrowed seeds to buy a toy. The hat was beautiful, but it only ever took seeds out of his pouch. It never earned anything back. That is bad debt. Pip looked at his wheelbarrow with new eyes. It wasn't just wood and a wheel. It was a symbol of a powerful financial secret. Good debt makes you richer. Bad debt makes you poorer. He now understood how to use debt as a powerful tool for growth. But it all came down to what he was buying. Was he buying a tool or a toy? An asset or a liability? And what was the fundamental difference between the two? He was about to discover the core secret of all wealth building.
Subscribe to Gopher Business to learn the difference between an asset and a liability.